Start early.
In the end, played up with hockey, but they didn't want us.
Yes, I remember.
Hey, and another couple of guys. So I started.
Great starter. I feel proud.
Played 4 years.
My niece and her boys who were in the
My senior year, we played in the God. In the ECA team. Neutral site, right against BC. Yeah. We lost 2-1.
I did too. I'm not a priest, I'm a pastor now. There's the end of the line. Last 3 churches I passed. That was a year old churches. We are.
I didn't know so you'll
are much into talking to each other, catching up with each other, which is wonderful. So you can stay up here, and this is exactly what you can do. You can have some coffee, you can have some wine or whatever, and catch up, or you can follow me. In any case, we're going to start downstairs in the lobby, and we will have to take the elevator down as the doors have been locked up front for security. So, whenever you're ready, I'm ready, okay?
That's the wrong
It's actually, if you say it's French, it's that's how I say it. I was. Oh, yeah, I thought they brought us French too. Can you tell you about It's very well to me. I mean, I had him a couple of years.
He was a caricature. A caricature of strangers. I worked for museums. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, sure.
Staying with us, girls? Yes. Tomorrow night and Sunday. She'll be the bartender extraordinaire.
Oh, with the Moscato?
All right.
Couple of facts first to set it up. And we're going to start off with Samuel Slater, of course, father of the Industrial Revolution. Now, Samuel, coming from England, England was ahead of us technologically. So Samuel brought over all the information he needed to make a machine that would make thread. He kept it all in his head because he could have been killed for taking papers out of England. It was a very serious offense, but when he came here, he was apparently very smart, and he put this machine together. Now, on our porch here, this is a replica of what our home would be like in Canada back in the 17 and 1800s. It's an actual size of a home. This woman would have sheep. She would also use flax, grow flax for material. And she would, on her machine, once she got done cleaning the wool out and everything, brushing it all down, she would make her thread. Then she would weave her thread. Then she would make the clothing. if you look at a square inch of the material of your shirt, your blouse, your dress, and you see how many threads it took to make that, you can picture how long it took this woman every day of the week. Not to mention that she had 8 or 9 children. And that's why they only had 2 sets of clothing, one for church and special occasion, and the other one for working, and they got cleaned once a week. So we went from this woman working that hard, to a machine that could make bolts of cloth in like a couple of hours, reams and reams of it. Well, of course, this meant that everybody that could work in the mills worked in the mills because it was good money at the time. If you weren't educated, it was good money. So, after a while, there were fewer and fewer people and more mills. So, the mill owners said, okay, we're going to send somebody up to Canada because Canada has this big supply. Now, back in the early 1800s, Canada was mainly farmland. And yes, they had some industry in that, but not a lot. And they didn't know a lot about conservation and how to replenish their fields and everything. So their farmlands were not doing well. So now you get this man who comes up and goes in the community and he says, tell you what, if you come down to New England and you work in our mills, you can make in 1 month what you would earn in a whole year up on your farms. We have a place for you to live. We have stores for you to buy things, your groceries and everything. You don't have to have gardens. You don't have to do a lot. Well, it all sounded wonderful. So they came. Thousands and thousands, month and month after, one after the other. And when they got down here and they started working the mills, maybe life was good, maybe life was not good. But all this goodness came through power. Okay, come on, it's obvious. What is the power that they use for the mills?
Blackstone River.
The Blackstone River, exactly. The map in the back shows the Blackstone River, which starts up in Worcester, Massachusetts, and goes to Providence. It's 46 miles long and drops 10 feet for every mile. The difference in Woonsocket is between Blackstone and here, which is only a matter of 2 or 3 miles, it drops an extra 10 feet. And then we had the waterfall. So the power that our little city got for its mills was very sizable. If you go in the parking lot across the street, you will see granite bricks going in different directions, and you're going to think that, gee, they must have been crosswalks or something. Well, actually, they denote the sluiceways that went to all the mills for the power. So we had the power and the people came. But before that, they had a big decision to make because this was home. Let's go into their home. Like the original size of one of the homesteads that was in Canada. And of course, they had something like old Nellie here.
This
that
room
did
is the
cooking.
entire home?
Except for maybe a storage area in the back. They also had spaces underground. They may have had a trap door where they could go in, and they would keep their fruits and vegetables and things for the winter. So they had that. They also had the upstairs. There was possibly a ladder against the wall, and for the most part, from what I understand, the children would sleep up in the attic. And remember, all they have is old Nellie and a pipe for heat. But then again, when you have 10 children all cuddling in a bed, life is pretty good. But on this farm, picture yourself. You're a farmer, you have 10 kids. It's February in Canada. Okay, what is life like? Okay, you've stored what food you could from your farming in the fall, from your harvest. You still have to go out and pump water. Somebody's got to go out and bring water. We can't live without it, so yes, somebody has to go out. Somebody throughout the year has to have enough wood cut down, chopped down, and hauled in and out of the house to feed Nellie for her cooking and her heating.
Yeah, it's
Don't forget the outhouse.
Yes. Okay. Now that you mentioned it, come on. All right, chamber pot. Yes, when I tell this to like the 6th graders who come in, they freak out. And yes, for somewhat privacy's sake, they may have had a small room where, okay, but somebody in the morning had to empty it. And none of my 6th graders ever wanted to have that job. So yes.
Maybe they had that.
So life on this farm was not glorious. But you were family, you took care of each other, you did everything together. From the time you were 2 or 3 years old, you're plucking the weeds from the garden, you were hauling a bucket of water, you were helping from the very, very beginning. So, now we fast forward a little bit. And as you can see, we have religious pictures in our home, and religion was a very big part. Being a Catholic, a French Catholic, was very, very important in their lives. So, once every month or so, a priest might come through and say, have you had any births? Have you had any deaths? If any of you have done your genealogy,
Yep.
most of the records come from the church. So some of them are very precise, some of them aren't, but that priest coming through meant a lot. And there were a lot of people at that time deciding to go become nuns or become priests or whatever. And we see today how life has changed. So life here was tough, but you were family. And when you're working with family, it's different. You're not working just for you, you're working for a unit, and that makes people gather, which is a good thing. Well, now these people from the United States say, hey, look, send your people down to us and we will take care of them. They can send you money if you prefer to stay. Sounds pretty good. What they did do was send mainly women, single women, to work in the mills because they were cheaper. When they came down here, their children went to work in the mills, some of them as young as 8 and 9 years old. Because they didn't carry around any identifications, so even little ones did. But if you were on the farm and it was your birthday, Mom and Dad may have said, okay, everybody else will take care of your duties for the day and you've got the day off. And at the end of the day, you get to go in the swimming hole, you get to do something. In the mills, were you gonna have that luxury? No, that wasn't going to happen. So they found life a little bit challenging up there and a little bit challenging down here. So let's go out into the hall and I'll give you a better idea of the comparison. Good example of what I've just been saying. This is what the French Canadian came down to. A mill on every corner. You look at the pictures and they're 4 stories high. They're huge. There's like they need thousands of people to work in these mills. And everything was great. And this little story is from a man called Emile to his brother Basil saying, "You've got to come down here. I'm making more money than I know what to do with." And there were boarding houses for him to stay in and everything was hunky-dory. Everything was great. Until you bring the rest of the family down, and then you have to have space for all of these people and jobs for all of these people. So you go from, let's say, number 3. You see the number 3 on the building? 3 were mills owned by one person at a time. That person may have owned the thread making, the material making, the dye making. They may have processed their own machinery, which was a smart idea when you think about it. You keep it all so you don't have to hand out anything to anybody, which is great. So you have all these places that you have to supply the workforce for. On the other hand, there you have a Canadian boy coming down with his dog, and it's kind of like, okay, I've got a little bit of time to myself today. If you worked in the mill, you didn't have time off. You know, it was as difficult as it was for them physically to do the work, it was just as hard or tedious doing this. So you see the big comparison. And later on as we're going on, you can make up your mind, if you were that person coming from Canada, what would you want? What would you want to do? Now, in our church here, this is a replica of Precious Blood, which was the first French-Canadian church in the city. We had, at that time, St. Charles. As Precious Blood was being built, St. Charles, if any of you recall, it was a church primarily for the Irish immigrants who came here before the French. And they were generous enough to leave time on Sundays, Precious Blood, to have their masses for the French. And I'm not quite that old. So I happened to have heard that there was a little tension between the Irish and the French Canadians when they came in. The Irish built our canals. You all know that we have the canals that went from Providence to Worcester, which if you're on the right path in the fall or the spring before the growth comes in for the summer, you can see the granite blocks and everything. And it was primarily the Irish that built them. When you got to the mills being built, the Irish may have built the buildings. A little bit of everybody, because I don't want to exclude anybody. Because think about it, all of our relatives came here as immigrants, unless you're Native American or you came without having your own will used. Everybody else, all our relatives, came from different countries. And even here in Woonsocket, yes, we work on the mill. Yeah, the museum here is before the French Canadians tells their story, but it tells the story about every immigrant everywhere who came. Some were educated, some were not. But those who weren't educated ended up working in little places like this. We'll go into the just Catholic churches alone. Catholic schools, we had a dozen schools. I don't recall a whole lot about Catholic school because I only went for 2 or 3 years.
What do you want to know?
There were some nice nuns, that's what I want to know.
Maybe one.
There were a few. There were a few.
My
They used to know
husband,
how to really use the ruler.
Yeah.
yes. Well, that's a point, but things that I knew because I didn't speak French, so I was like always getting whacked for something. And so I was not too fond of it. On the other hand, my husband went to Mount St. Francis for
Oh,
his
I
8
was
years.
there. What's your husband's name?
Dan Coughlin.
Is he your age?
You don't know what her age is.
Well, I did graduate in '69, so yes, I would be about your age. So yes,
I graduated from Mount St. Francis in 1965.
well, Mount St. Francis is 65. He must be a little bit younger. He graduated from high school in '66.
Oh, I'm not sure. Probably.
Yes, sorry.
Just joking.
Yeah. Anyhow. Now I have talked and talked and talked. Now it's your turn. If you have something you would like to add, a memory you would like to share, a history, something that tells me that you have that little memory of something your relatives, like I work for my relatives because I didn't live at the time of the mills and everything. So I'm assuming that you people also have stories from relatives who work the mills.
I worked in, no?
You did? Which one?
I worked at Bone and Spinning, and I worked at the French
Oh,
Restaurant.
I lived right across the street from the bone and spinning.
I actually worked at Bone and Spinning when I was at home.
Really?
In-
Do you
in my
remember
junior
the
year.
siren that went off every Sunday?
No.
No? There's this crazy siren and I think it was, kind of like that thing we get on TV where they make that horrendous noise in case there's an alert thing, some kind of alert. Like jump under your desk or something.
Right.
I don't know.
I was gonna help you
But
a lot.
anyway, is there anybody who would like to share?
My first job was Consolidated Fabrics. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
Where was Consolidated Fabrics? Do you know?
Off of,
Can you remember?
off of Harris Ave, pretty close to where the high school was.
Oh, yes.
It was a mill there, and it was silk screening. And
Oh,
was-
really?
$1.65 an hour,
Uh-huh.
and they paid you in cash at the end of the week, there was no checks. You come around with a little envelope, with a blue
Yes.
brown envelope, and it was,
manila.
yeah, it was just cash.
Okay,
And,
now,
$1.65 an
now
hour.
you go from that little pittance of money you're making to going to Mount St. Charles. Now, you know that you've got the education behind you. So what was your choice of jobs? I'm assuming you
that
didn't
was-
want to stay working in the mills.
Oh, that was awful. Very good. Silk screening, it was all done by hand.
Yeah,
There was no machines. We had to silk screen each pattern. The tables were like 80 feet long in each room, and you had to go from one
to another,
to another, and you can't, if you goof,
yeah.
that whole thing is no good.
The monotony had to be.
Oh, and so people did it for like 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And I was just there the textile
Yes.
too.
All hoping that you would get a pension or something at the end. And you come again and you see the roofing. You will hear this woman say, my husband worked in the Verdun mill for like his whole life. And at the end, they gave him a lollipop. Yeah. So we don't realize how how lucky our generation was because we didn't have to work mills and that. There were a few here and there, right?
Why'd you ask how many worked in textile?
Okay, anybody work in textile?
My Pepe did.
Two,
My Pepe.
three?
My father,
My
grandfather.
My Pepe just you know that. Yeah.
My grandfather was French, but tool and die shop in America.
A dye shop?
Tool and die,
Yes.
tool and die.
Yes.
Not dye material.
One of my aunts worked for Fran Color, and Fran Color was on Hamlet Avenue across from French Twister, and they did supply trading with France or Belgium back and forth. So yeah, there was a lot to it, but the monotony. I was telling you about the sixth graders I have when I'm doing one of their tours, and one of our things to do with them is to have them fold a piece of paper. The first person folds it in half, the next person folds it in half, the next person does a little graphic on it, the next person does a little, like a copyright thing at the bottom, and this is all they do, and they do this for like 15 minutes. And the kids are all getting crabby, and they're getting antsy, and and he said, oh, that was not allowed in the mills. You could lose your job if you're getting antsy and you're leaving. You know, you want to leave, so that wasn't allowed.
And the sound was so,
Oh,
ear blasting, young.
I just can't imagine with all those machines.
Oh, yeah. I go visit my mom and it would be so loud.
Oh, our machines here don't work. We give you what it looked like. But if you go to Slater's Mill, you can hear the machines going, and that's only one or two of them. I can't imagine thousands of them. Crazy.
So this is also, we have a lot of people in our family that worked at the rubber shop.
Oh.
And we'd get brand new pair of sneakers for 50 cents a pair for the second.
I love my
I
cats.
had 3 pairs of sneakers every year for $2. It was great.
I can't imagine them coming home and smelling like
Yeah.
ew. But on the other hand, I was just watching something on PBS about D-Day and everything. And one of the things they did was they took rubber, and I guess they didn't try out this very well. So they took a chance on these people that they could build their own little nests. And Central Falls Credit Union later became Navigant. And very often, if you look in the Providence newspapers and that, there are a lot of shows in that are supported. Providence Performing Arts, Trinity Rap. Us, here at the museum, we're supported partially by Navigant Credit Union, so they are still helping get along. Now, you see the safety walls over here, and yes, I've got one. And this is to keep your memories in. We all know that our children are maybe in their 40s or so, and they're not quite so much into collecting the family memorabilia yet. They will, one day, hopefully. But my memories are in my box. The things I really, really want my children to see in the end. Example, I had my mom, my grandfather and grandmother belonged to the American Legion. My mother had the cape and the hat, and they were very, very proud Americans, which is funny because if you look up the American Legion, some people considered them socialists, and they were not happy with them. My grandparents' idea was that they were very pro-American, and anything that it could help, you know, not only the rich, but the medium-income people and the poor. That was their thing, and they were proud of it. So, for some strange reason, my mom kept my grandmother and my mom, her hat, her American Legion hat. So I've got that in there, and I've got a story I've got their story tucked in it. I have a doily, and my mom taught me how to make doilies when I was a little kid. As my dad was dying, he had Alzheimer's and he had a stomach tumor, and he was gradually fading. She was making a doily, and she died 5 days after my dad did, and she never finished the doily. I was going to finish it, but I said, no, one day she and I will finish it. So, in my safety deposit box is that doily, and when I think of it, the story is there. I've written it down so my children will know that I was a human. I wasn't just a number, just a fact, a figure, an age, a date. So this is important. So if you would care to purchase one, you can ask at the desk. And it gives, we're now at that age where we're separating things, what's important, what's not important. This is important to me. So I hope that you will consider it anyway. All right. Well,
So these are actually boxes.
Yeah.
yes, 6 days a week, morning, noon, and night.
They play baseball.
Yes, what they thought, what the mill owners thought was, well, what the heck? People not liking us a whole lot, so on Sundays, we will run baseball teams. And the cities, all the different mills will play against each other. Well, they were smart. Across from Landmark Medical Center, there used to be a baseball park.
Yep.
That was huge. I've seen pictures of it, but it was gone by the time I was born, maybe a little after, but it was huge. So we have all these mills playing against each other. They were taking kids out of the workforce and letting them practice. Well, that practice came in really handy. See, we here in Woonsocket, Blackstone, and I believe it's Cumberland, we have 3 Hall of Famers in the baseball. 3 of them. Come on, that's big. And one of them his record hasn't been broken, mainly because of the difference in bats and materials that, they've learned along the way. But that record, his record isn't broken, and that's Napoleon Lajoie. And because girls were not allowed to play baseball, they needed to have something for the girls as well. So on Sunday, the girls would have relay races, pie baking contests, things like this. And you see the girls running, but under their dresses, they have their pantaloons. So they could have some form of modesty. So if you have a chance, look up some of our players. Napoleon Lajoie, Clem Levine, Gabby Hartnett. Fantastic stories. Fantastic stories of their playing. So baseball became an important thing. Alrighty, so now while that was going on, Mom and Dad and Grandma and Grandpa are at home in the tenement.
Oh, yes.
Triple deck.
I know it well.
Triple deckers.
Yeah.
They were side by each.
Side by
I don't know where it is.
each. Really?
He was the president of the USI in Buffalo.
Really? What's his name? Henry Hero. I'll have to ask some of the girls, the name's not ringing a bell to me, but. Okay, now in this is our newest section. And as you can see, everything is a little computerized. If you look at the table, you can find the map of our city and all the mills that were in it. And Woonsocket happens to have a big double view through it, which is kind of cool. You can go on the map and look for it by the dates, by the ethnicity and the different sections. You can find what in 2000 to present, what mills are still here and which ones aren't here any longer. So it's something that you kind of have to come and play with because it takes a lot of time to decipher. The one thing I'm not too fond of the map is that it doesn't have the street names. And it takes me a while sometimes to figure out where I
If you orient
am.
yourself, you can figure it out.
Yeah. But here behind us, we have all these pictures of people like Mr. Bouchette, who is also a member of our board, and he worked at Enterprise Dye and at Getchell's and Son, and his parents also worked here. So if you know that your parents or grandparents worked in one of the mills, you can send us the information, possibly with a picture, and we